Hello and welcome to Walking War Robots. In this video, we're going to go over just a few of the weapons and break down the differences and really compare them with each other. How we're going to do this is we're going to do light, then medium, then heavy in 3 different videos. So the reason for that is if we do them all together, the video is just way too long. So first, we're going to get in here, find a light weapon. I'm going to go into Rhino and equip it as if we were buying a new weapon. So we're going to go to light. Let's go to the store. And this is going to show us more or less in order all of the light weapons. So, first on the list is the AC Malat. It has an 800 meter range and it does lowish damage. It is very cheap though, so whenever you're first starting the game, it's a decent choice. But it's just because of the weapon right to the right of it, the AT Spiral, that it makes the Malat like almost unplayable. Yes, the Malat can hit at 800 meters, but the AT Spiral can only hit at 600 meters. But the AT Spiral does so much more damage, and it can hit people behind buildings. You don't have to have direct line of sight, so that just really hurts the AC Malat. I would not recommend buying the AC Malat. It is only 8,000, so it's not a mistake to buy it and try it, but it's not something I would recommend. Now, the AT Spiral is a pretty good light weapon. Like I said, you don't need line of sight with it. It does, I would say, average damage. Not great, but also not low damage. It's right about in the middle. It's very good medium range support thing. It's pretty good to slap on some robots that you're just running around and capping. Throw it on a Death Strider if you're capping while you're low level, and I think that's probably fine. When you're first, before you hit level 10. I think that's probably a good thing. Then we have the Gal Punisher. The Gal Punisher is a pretty good weapon. In the light weapons, I think it has the most damage per second. The problem is it's wildly inaccurate. It says it's accurate out to 500 meters, but you are really going to want to be like 50 to 100 meters away before you can start unloading with this. Now, this right here, before you hit level 10, is probably going to be your best weapon, like hands down. You're going to be using this for a while. It's cheap to upgrade. It's cheap to buy. And it's a really good weapon. I think it's really underrated. It actually does more damage than the Magnum. If you're within like 50 to 100 meters. The next weapon is the Gecko. Now, this weapon is not overpowered. It's not super amazing. It is very accurate, but it's more meant to like harass and make people go and hide. Whenever I'm in my Rhino, I just laugh off these geckos, man. Or if I have the next weapon on the list, an ECU, that literally I just laugh at people who use the Gecko. Other than that, it's decent. It does decent damage. But I would rather have this one right here, the EA Aphid. Now, they do different things, but if you look, the gold cost is 750. They cost the same exact thing. So if I'm buying 4 of one or the other, I would rather have 4 EE Aphid. The EE Aphid is probably the best weapon for light weapons. We'll get into the Magnum a little bit later, but the EE Aphid is probably the second best, and the third best is probably the Gecko. It's either the Gecko or the Gal Punisher, actually, the third best. They're probably tied. That's just my opinion, though. Then you have the Pinata, the Sura F Pinata. It's commonly called a Pinata. It's a decent weapon. The only problem is that you shoot it once, it fires off its entire magazine, which I suppose it's not a magazine. It doesn't have a magazine, but it fires off all 16 of the rockets, and then you're waiting there, getting killed by, an ECC Thunder or something like that. So it is good, but you have to be able to stick and move with it. You have to be able to duck behind something, and it's only 300 meter range. The next weapon, the CVR pin, has great damage, great range. The only problem is it only shoots 4 missiles. The damage output is pretty low. The Noricum, honestly, I think this weapon is really, really, really overrated. I don't think it's that good. But whenever you're running something like trebuchets or honestly, Zenith is the only reason I could see you using a Noricum. But the Zenith is really overrated. The Zenith is just not a good weapon. So there's nothing really good to use in tandem with the Noricum, because honestly, if you're using like a trebuchet or something like that, I would rather have a gecko because it still hits at the 1500-meter range. Or failing that, you might even go all the way over here to a Malot. And yes, I'm saying use a Malot, and I already said it's bad. I said use a Malot over a Noricum. That's just because, in my opinion, the Noricum is the least useful weapon on this list. Now, last is the Magnum. The reason why it's overrated is because it just keeps shooting. It has infinite ammo. But like I said before, the Gao does more damage per second. However, the Magnum, because it's so versatile, is probably the best weapon on the list because it just keeps hammering your opponent. The second best weapon for light weapons is probably the EE Aphid, just because it just nukes people. It's such a good weapon. The third best is probably a tie between the Gecko and the Punisher. And that's it for light weapons.